We're gonna have our hands full.
Hey, all right, welcome hockey fans to another edition of Talkin Hockey. This is, of course, an Inside Sports production. And before we get into this Stanley Cup final preview, let's go ahead and thank our sponsor, thepuckshopshere.com. Discount hockey gear available online, free shipping on all orders over $75, and a 10% discount if you enter the promo code Inside Sports upon checkout. So without further ado, I'm Charles E. Smith, Jr., and I cannot do this show alone. I absolutely cannot do it alone. I do need help. I'm out here on the West Coast. So, of course, West Coast hockey is one thing, but we all know about how they feel about hockey in the East. So I went deep into the East, into the center of the hockey universe. And I will have with me none other than Lonnie Schwartz of Hockey54.com, one of the foremost hockey authorities you will find anywhere. You can follow him on Twitter at TheSchwartz54. And the man with the loony, Lonnie Schwartz. Hey, Lonnie, what's happening there? Don't tell everyone where you are. I know you're in Toronto somewhere in an undisclosed location. How are things, man? We're down to the Cup final.
Undisclosed, but with a loony in hand, ready to toss the coin and see what the fates will have for the Stanley Cup final when it comes to your Los Angeles Kings against a team that, without reservation, I should say, I've been following for many years, since they wore green and red, since Captain Kirk Muller was Captain Kirk Muller in the swamp, when you had the likes of Chris Terreri and net. I do believe, was Sidorkowitz a goaltender in New Jersey before he traveled over to Ottawa to play for the Senators? I mean, I've always had a little soft spot for the New Jersey Devils. And then, of course, you have Martin Brodeur, arguably the greatest goaltender that ever was and ever will be. And you got a team that I've always just kind of rooted for, and I almost feel shame in saying that my dark horse pick, because if you've been paying attention, folks, they were my dark horse pick up until they almost blew it against Florida. The New Jersey Devils are there, man.
They are
playing great hockey.
Most definitely. And, representing out here on the West Coast is my, as a fan, my beloved Los Angeles Kings, who finally they're back to the Cup final, for the first time since 1993. Which also 1993 was the last time they got past the second round of the playoffs. Jonathan Quick, when you talk goaltenders, he's playing lights out, and he's shaking the hands of, first it was Roberto Luongo, or was it the backup there, or who? I don't know who's the backup. Is Schneider the backup? Is Luongo the backup?
Both.
Yeah,
they shook both, but it was Corey Schneider.
Right, exactly. Then you had Brian Elliott, and then it was Mike Smith. He's going to eventually shake the hand of Martin Brodeur, but it's just a matter of, does he shake the hand as a champion, or does he shake the hand of the old wily master who is back in the Stanley Cup final for the first time since 2003? But the Kings are playing great hockey. And you know what? I got to just touch on something here, and that is, we remember back in 1993 the whole thing of Marty McSorley and his illegally curved stick, which in
Jacques Demers with the master call.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was actually conspiracy afoot. There was, and I sat down with Marty. He addressed the media before Kings practice on May 27th. He sat there for about a half hour, and he talked about the whole thing. So if you wonder why a team down 2-1 with only a couple minutes to play would actually risk making that challenge on that stick at that time, how could you be that sure? Because, obviously if they don't make it, if it turned out to be legal, it would have been a 2-minute penalty on Montreal and they would have been doomed. But they knew his stick was illegal. How exactly did they know? Why did they know? That's the intrigue. Just look up Conspiracy in Montreal on YouTube, and you will see my 3-part series with Marty McSorley. It's better to let Marty tell the story himself. You will never view that incident the same, I guarantee it. Conspiracy in Montreal, the Marty McSorley stick story, brought to you by Inside Sports and available on YouTube for your viewing pleasure. A dynamic, riveting 3-part series, folks. Don't miss it.
See, I'm going to have to check that side of the conspiracy story because people in Toronto haven't stopped moaning over the fact that Wayne Gretzky didn't get nailed for a high sticking call on Doug Gilmour.
And you know what? Kerry Fraser admits that he missed that call. He admits it. He knows he missed it. Yeah.
You know what? I've spoken to Kerry Fraser on more than one occasion, and you know what? I just kind of stay away from that because, I mean, come on. How many years has it been? It's been since 1993. It's almost 20 years. Get over it.
Exactly.
It's done.
Exactly.
Like, it's finished. It happened, Toronto fans. It's sad. It happened, and as Faith No More would say, it's a shame. But get over it. Get over it. It's what happened. It doesn't change anything. Look, with all due respect to you and the Kings fans out there as well, in '93, Patrick Waugh could have been facing off against God, Jesus, and all the apostles, and he probably still would have won that Stanley Cup.
You know what? I like that you said that because that's what I said after the series, even back then and now. It seems to have clouded the memories of everyone, but the Kings outplayed the Canadiens in the first 4 games. They got beaten by Patrick Waugh. They didn't get beaten by that stick call. That's the thing about it. And as I wrote, the thing is that Patrick Waugh should be getting 10 times the credit that he got for winning that series. And Marty McSorley, you know, he wound up getting 10 times as much blame as he really should have for that whole incident. But, yeah, it overshadowed what was a terrific, a masterpiece of a goaltending performance by Patrick Waugh. And it was to the point where I have my wall of fame in my living room. There are only 9 autographed 8x10s up there. There's only one goaltender among them. That one goaltender is the same goaltender who ripped my heart out in 1993, but he was just so good that he made it onto my wall of fame. Patrick Waugh was a magnificent performance back then.
Yeah, and I truly do think people forget about it, that was a very mediocre Montreal team.
It was.
Like Brian Bellows, Vincent D'Anfous, it wasn't like a team of all-stars on there.
Right.
This was Patrick Waugh and a good cast in front of him, but you'd probably say it's a role players team as opposed to a team led by a few superstars. That was Patrick Waugh.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's go ahead and move on from past to present here. Of course, we got the New Jersey Devils, Zach Parise getting the Prince of Wales trophy, and Dustin Brown, captain of the Kings, not touching the Campbell Conference Bowl there. And there you have the 2 captains, quintessential leaders, hard-nosed, just great hockey players. Let's go ahead and break this thing down. Lonnie, let's just shed a little bit of light on it here. Just in general, how do you see this series going? And then we're going to just pick a couple of players who will be factors, just kind of X factors or prove it to me players in the series here.
Well, you know, it's funny when you talked about history. I look at last year, and we were already touching on this at the beginning of the show, how New Jersey was my dark horse, and they stumbled out of the gate against the Florida Panthers in what everybody, including ourselves, called the least sexy of all series that were kicking off the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. Well, last year, when the Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup, in the very first round, it went to sudden death overtime against the Montreal Canadiens, and look what happened. They go on and they win the Stanley Cup. So is history going to repeat itself, where you have a team that faced adversity in the first round, were literally a goal away from playing golf, to winning the Stanley Cup? It's just that eerie that we have that set of circumstances again this year.
Mm-hmm. And, you know,
albeit with team,
Yeah, exactly.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to talk over you, brother.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it'd be different if we could see each other, but we can't. So therefore, I just kind of have to try to read your voice tones and inflections, which you know that's a little bit dicey if you've ever heard yourself talk on radio or anything, man. I know. Oh, whoa, Lonnie's cranking it up again. Let me just hang back a little bit. But I'm going to tell you, when I look at these teams, though, you know, all due respect to both teams, obviously, but there's a couple of players, and I think it may come down to the play of a couple of the rookie players. And one is, if we start with the Kings, I look at Slava Voinov there on the blue line for the Kings. Now, Willie Mitchell has been entrusted with, looking out for him. Sutter's sending Chili Willie out there saying, hey, keep Junior out of trouble there. And Voinov is trusted to move the puck, to carry the puck, and they do log a lot of ice time, the top pairing being Scuderi and Drew Doughty. But when we look on the other side, and I think that's one of the things, Jersey, I think, is going to try to pressure Voinov. I think they're going to go after him, not in a dirty sense, but if they find there's going to be a weak link, I think they'll look at him. Now, the other guy I want to look at is from New Jersey's side, Adam Henrique, who has impressed the heck out of me. 2 series-clinching overtime goals this year. Double OT against Florida, and then what was a minute or so in against the Rangers. Now he's going to have to go up against the likes of Mike Richards and Andrei Kopitar, who are 2 of the best defensive-minded centers in the league, as well as what they can provide on offense. So one thing is going to be can Adam Henrique keep up his level of play now that he's going to go up against some real top-flight centers?
Well, look at it this way. Adam Henrique at the very beginning of the season wasn't even on the roster for New Jersey. He fought his way back, and here he is, a Rookie of the Year candidate, and quite frankly, he could win it because, as well as Ryan Nugent-Hopkins played, whom I, by the way, like to call the Nuge, or you could say Stranglehold, in homage to the Motor City Madmen's epic song. Yeah,
I call him Hoppy.
The epic word, I know.
I call him Hoppy.
I know.
Yeah.
You call the Nuge you call the Nuge who?
Hoppy. Nugent Hopkins.
Really?
I call him Hoppy. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Hopkins. Oh, I thought you called Ryan. I thought you called the Nuge Hockey for some reason. I'm like, I know he hunts bears. I didn't know he was into hockey.
Yeah, yes. We progress.
But Henrique is not a stranger to this kind of pressure. I mean, he could have very well gotten sent down had he not stepped up his game, and so he comes into the playoffs. And we were saying this even in the Philadelphia series when they were playing against Pittsburgh. You had the likes of even Couturier and Shen stepping it up. I think the rookie card gets overplayed just a little bit too much. If you're a good hockey player and you've got a competitive spirit and you know what you got to do to win, whatever cliche you want to describe as a coach, you could be 19 or you could be 39. If you have that skill set matched with a mental fortitude, then and you're absorbing from your coach and from guys who have been there before, and that's looking like what Henrique has done this year, then who cares if he's a rookie? He's playing in clutch situations, so that means his coach believes in him. And you got to credit DeBoer with the way that the Devils are playing because, look, they went from a no team last year to Stanley Cup finalists this year.
Exactly. So it's just one of those things where you have to look for any kind of a weakness. We're not going to say the weakness is going to be with with Travis Zajac or with Daniel Zubris. Is his name Danis or Dinius or how exactly does he pronounce that?
I've heard so many pronunciations, and you know me with names. I really like to strive for perfection with names, and I have yet to hear what the official pronunciation is because there are just so many, and he's never at an award show. He's never at any All-Star games.
Right.
So I can never really clear it up with Mr. Zubris.
Well, you know what? And they also have Zidlicki on their team, or Zidliski. I've actually heard the same announcer during the same game, pronounce it 2 different ways. So that's another one. You can work on that and then just get back to me on the next show.
I will definitely do my best to get. I think my father-in-law, who is big on pronunciation as well, I think it was a Zidlicki.
Zidlicki. Okay.
So I'll confirm with him, though. He is quite the linguist. So I'm pretty sure I'll get the goods again from him to make it 100%. But, we were talking about players who are making impacts. I've been thinking about this. This series, in and of itself, has got to be one of the hardest to predict. I think it's going to be a great series, despite what some columnists and pundits have to say about its quality. New Jersey, had it not been for the seeding system, would have been 4th or 5th place in the league, or in their division.
Right.
Conference, no matter what. And LA came on strong, just like we were talking about, like the St. Louis Cardinals last year. So we have some really interesting dynamics with this series and drama that is more fitting than any soap opera you could find. It's a great script. You know, this isn't your daytime soap, is what I'm trying to say. This is a great script.
Definitely.
For your Stanley Cup playoffs.
And you know, one thing is I look at the teams, and when I was actually got to talk to Mike Richards, and when we end the show today, folks, at the end of the show, we're going to end it with the interview that I did with Mike Richards just a couple of days ago before they flew out there to New Jersey in anticipation of this first game, which starts tomorrow. But he talked about it. It's a very similar team because New Jersey is, if nothing else, they are disciplined as they can be. And that's one thing about the Kings team also. So you have two very disciplined teams. They're not going to get frustrated, flustered. They're not going to lose composure, especially after LA finished off Phoenix in that fifth game, which was the most poorly officiated important game I think I'd ever seen in my life in any sport. Ever. So they kept their composure through that.
Put the whistle away.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, though, again, just like with New Jersey, I think the way it's been all the way back going to '95 when they won their first cup, one thing is, on Jersey, if you can get a lead on them, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do, but get a lead on them and make them play from behind, put them in a position where they have to score. That's the main thing about Jersey. So it's really going to be, because you don't want to be down a goal in the third period against New Jersey. They can slap that trap on you and just put you in a vice. So I think that's going to be one of the keys for the Kings to be successful in this series.
They can do that, but keep in mind, I'm not terribly sure that New Jersey has had an offensive weapon that they can rely on in the likes of Kovalchuk ever. I really don't know. I can't think of a player off the top of my head.
Closest thing would be Mogilny.
They can go. No, maybe Moho, but you know what? How long was he there, and how big of an impact?
He's like Kovalchuk light.
Yeah, we're talking about a guy in his prime who is going to be a New Jersey Devil for the bulk of his career now, thanks to that contract. And look at the goal he scored to put them ahead on the Rangers in the game clincher. I mean, it was a power play goal, but he was there for like 20 seconds by himself. Who leaves Kovalchuk by himself?
Right.
For 20 seconds. Like, that was just absurd. But at the same level, he's playing great defense, which everybody has talked about. But now, and I know it took a couple of rounds, he has supplanted Claude Giroux as the points leader during these playoffs. So there's a guy who, if you leave him alone, you are pretty much drinking cyanide because he's going to kill you. And Zach Parise's picking up his game. They were talking about how Eliash, who's been a no-show, if he picks up his game, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And the same thing goes for Carter. Carter had that one explosive game. Like everything, the problem I'm having with this series, really, Charles, is what I'm getting down to is everything cancels itself out.
Right.
You have a great goaltender, arguably the greatest of all time in Berger, against an amazing talent in Jonathan Quick. So there's your cancellation right there, because they both let in a couple of weak goals during the run, but when they've been depended upon, they are dependable. And then some.
Right.
And then there's the defense. The defense has been, I guess you could say maybe offensively speaking, you have Doughty, and nobody on New Jersey is quite like Doughty.
Right.
But the no-name defense has been playing great. And then the depth. Everybody talks about depth. You have Carter scoring some great goals in New Jersey, and you have King scoring some great goals in LA.
Exactly.
Everything cancels itself out. It's like a double negative. You know, you end up with an absolute zero with that double negative, and you just don't know what to do, which is why you have a coin.
That's right. And you know what? For people who may be just joining us here as we just take a look at Kopitar moving in on goal, explain this. We're going to talk about the loonie now, which was employed after the first two rounds of the playoffs. And then you did employ this for the conference final round, and it did well. So just a little short history of the loonie, and then we'll get into it.
You know what? The Canadian dollar, many a year ago, went from paper to coin. And on one side of this coin, there is the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, because technically speaking, we're still part of the monarchy. Don't ask me to explain why or anything. We still get visits from her and her kids and all that good stuff. And on the other side is a loon, which is a bird that is found throughout many a land here in Canada. And if you've ever seen a duck, but it's black and white with red eyes and a pointy beak, it's not a duck. It's a loon. So that's how we have nicknamed our dollar coin the loonie. Don't ask me to explain a toonie because there's a polar bear on it, and you may want to call it a Polsky, but I lost that debate a long time ago.
Yeah.
But because I did so poorly in, what was it, the second round, I got totally skunked. I said, forget this noise. I'm going with a coin. I'm going with the coin. I'm going to flip a loonie to figure out who's going to win themselves a conference final here. And the loonie was right. New Jersey toppled the mighty New York Rangers, and L.A. just swept aside and said, so long, Phoenix.
Right.
Bye-bye. Crawl into your hole. And there we have it. The loonie proved successful.
All right, perfect. So there may be some magic in that loonie. So you may have a magic loonie there. So how are we going to do this? Shall I go ahead and pick first, or you want to flip the loonie first and see how that goes?
We just hype the loonie so much. I'm going to flip it, but because it's the Stanley Cup final. In all fairness, the last time I did, one flip and that's it, we're going to do best 2 out of 3 just to make sure the coin knows what the coin knows. So first flip, the loonie represents the Devils, the Queen represents the Kings, and the first flip, goes to royalty. What's the second flip going to say? Wow, the loonie hath spoken, no hesitation, best 2 out of 3. The loonie says the Los Angeles Kings will be crowned Stanley Cup champions.
Really? Oh, and you know what? That was a sweep right there. So I don't know if the loonie can actually predict a sweep, but that was a sweep.
Full clean slate sweep. That's 2 out of 3. It just went two. I'm trying to say 2 for 2 right there.
Yeah.
2 for 2. Spit it out, Lonnie. 2 for 2. Royalty on the coin represents royalty on the ice. The Los Angeles Kings are going to be your Stanley Cup champions according to our Canadian dollar. However, my heart is so conflicted with that result because I would so love to see Martin Brodeur win a 4th Stanley Cup and see the New Jersey Devils win. Not because I'm an East Coaster, but because I've always had that affiliation for the Devils. But
Brodeur is going to play next year too, so maybe he can do that next year. And I'm conflicted with those things as well when I see some of the wily old veterans, and then when they're enjoying a kind of a renaissance in their career, and they get to a point like this. But then you look at the other side, and it's okay. Well, then you got a kid who hasn't won it yet in Jonathan Quick, opposing him. This would be the classic. If this were a kung fu movie, this would be the ending scene where they face off with swords, and one of them is going to get beheaded. Is it going to be the old master? Is it going to be the young lion coming up trying to take out the old master who gets himself beheaded? It all depends on what side you're on, But...
And I will add this, by the way.
Yeah.
Before I even finish off, I have to say this one, and I've got a hashtag going for it. It's gotten a little bit of run on Twitter, the Twitterverse.
Okay.
There is an assistant coach on the bench of the New Jersey Devils whose name is not on the cup and who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and that's Adam Oates. And the hashtag that I've got going is win it for Oates, because the guy deserves something. He deserves something. We talked about him in shows past. He deserves something.
We're looking at a Hall of Fame.
He deserves his name on that cup.
We're looking at a Hall of Fame which includes Clark Gillies but does not include Adam Oates. That's all I have to say about that. In the Hall of Fame, it is kind of a popularity contest in certain ways. And Adam Oates, one of the best centers ever. He just played, and we've talked about it before, through the mid 80s and into the 90s, you had the best centers ever. The best centers ever all played in that same era.
Well, like I said, win it for Oates is the hashtag for me. We've talked about enough about the coin and Adam Oates. I want to know what you're saying over there on the West Coast.
Well, you know what? And here's one of the things, and I've picked, as you know, I've actually picked the Kings in every single round. I picked them against Vancouver, against St. Louis, against the Phoenix Coyotes. And here's what I'm going to say. Now, for the same reason I picked the Devils against the Rangers, I am making this pick now. And when I picked the Devils against the Rangers, I'd said that the Rangers had gotten through, but they were just better at some little things that tipped those series in their favor prior to playing the Devils. And I thought when they play the Devils are better at those types of things, and that was what would tip the series in favor of the Devils. So with the Kings and Devils, I look at it this way. We got two teams that are similar, very disciplined teams, defense-first teams, great goaltending on both sides. I just think at the end of the day, you got to look at what kind of X factors you've got. Now, I talked about Voynov on one side. I talked about Adam Henrique on the other. But I just think that overall, when it comes down to it, and yes, you've got Parise over there. You've got Kovalchuk over there. You got Travis Zajac over there. You know, great players. And I just think that the depth of the Kings and the strength of their top six, even though, you know, I talked to Mike Richards about it. He said, you know, they roll four lines just like we do. So it's not about just, you know, the top two centers matching up or anything. Everybody's going to have to get out there and play. And, you know, the Kings are going to have their hands full. But I like the LA Kings to take this series. And it's going to be those fine margins. I don't think there's going to be any blowouts, even if it wound up being a short series and LA were to take it in a sweep or 5 games or something. But I like the LA Kings to come out on top, first Stanley Cup in their history, and also establishing, you'll like this from wrestling, a new world order. The Western Conference. It's no longer about San Jose and Vancouver and the Detroit Red Wings, baby. It's about the South Coast out here, Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Kings. They get themselves a crown, and they establish themselves as the standard against which all others are measured in the Western Conference of the NHL. Los Angeles Kings finally get their names on the Stanley Cup, and I'm sure there's about probably 10 or 15,000 Kings fans who also think they deserve to have their names on the cup too, for having supported them for so long. But yeah, finally they're going to get that cup. And by the way, for all you Marty Brodeur fans, he has announced that whether win, lose, or draw, he's going to play next season. So maybe he can get it next year, but right now it's about the Kings. They've established themselves, and they're going to be major players for the next 5 to 7 years, so everybody get used to it. New sheriff in town, the Los Angeles Kings. They're going to take that Stanley Cup, baby. That's it.
Wow. Not just a prediction, but an assertion about your team, and I can't blame you. It's, you know what, though, it's just like we've been saying, a fine line between what will be royalty claiming victory and the swamp hoisting the cup once again. It's that close, no matter what the loony says, no matter what you and I think. It's just that close, and either way, I think, quite truthfully, if you're a hockey fan and if you're listening to this show, you should be, then everybody's going to win because it's going to be a great series. You're going to see some great hockey, and it's just, I don't know any other cliches because I hate working on those. You know, it's just going to be that good, and Stanley Cup miss has been good to us this year. Thank you very much, Lord Stanley.
Yep.
Wherever you are, you know, you've come down on your skates and shined upon all of us hockey fans and fiends with the greatness that is the Stanley Cup.
And you know, the best thing is the next show that we do will be 2 games into the Stanley Cup final, so we'll probably be coming at you guys again on this Sunday, more than likely, because, hey, I got to hit Staples Center on Monday night for Game 3 and Staples Center again on Wednesday night for Game 4. You know, love the Stanley Cup hockey, but final words here, Mr. Schwartz, before we go ahead and actually leave the viewers with Mike Richards' take on the series.
My final words are, soak it all up, whether it's on the beaches in L.A. or in the swamp in New Jersey. This is going to be a great Stanley Cup final, and I just have nothing else to say. I'm excited. You know, it's the culmination of all good things. It's like you're waiting for all those lights on the menorah to be lit, because we've got a few more days left of gifts that are hockey.
I knew you had to pay homage to your heritage at some point there, man. I just knew it. How do they... Hey, much love there, homie. All right, so that's Lonnie Schwartz of Hockey54.com, and you can also get more of his pearls of wisdom and little nuggets of knowledge at the Schwartz54. Follow him on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at the Inside Sports. And remember, thepuckshopshere.com, folks. Discount hockey gear available online. 10% discount when you use the promo code Inside Sports upon checkout. Free shipping on all orders over $75. And here at Inside Sports, we are changing the world one sport at a time. Today, the sport was hockey. And speaking of hockey, who better to take us out than Mike Richards of the Los Angeles Kings? And he'll be talking about, hey, this matchup and what they need to do against the New Jersey Devils. Everybody enjoy the Stanley Cup final. And without further ado, here is Mike Richards of the Los Angeles Kings. We'll see you next time.
They're probably the most disciplined teams in the league, and not only with their system, but they don't take a lot of penalties too. So we're gonna have our hands full. They got big, strong, speedy forwards, and obviously great goaltending too. So we have to execute what we do, and obviously play well in the first game and try to get momentum off of that.
What about getting to Brodeur? You know, he can get in one of those zones.
Well, I don't think you can get him off his game. He's seen pretty much just as much as you can in the game of hockey. He's been around a while and been through everything, so I don't think you can get him off his game. We just have to try to get as many pucks as possible to him, try to get some traffic, and hopefully we got some lucky breaks. They roll four lines like we do, and they got four lines that can play hockey, and they forecheck well, they get to the puck well, they got a lot of speed, and a couple guys there with a lot of skill too. So it's not just going to be about center ice and matching up. It's got to be a full line, because they definitely do it with committee.